What a treat we have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Meredith Show. I am thrilled to welcome two of my favorite people from my absolute favorite women's organization. Sandra Yancey and Julie Krasinski are joining me from different parts of the world. Julie's coming in, of course, from California. And Sandra Yancey, where are you coming in from today? Dallas?
I'm in Dallas today. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Well, for people who are just tuning in, and I'm sure it's possible, though it's my favorite organization, that you don't know a lot about Sandra Yancey or eWomen, I'd like to share with you that Sandra is an award-winning entrepreneur and #1 best-selling author of not one, not two, not three, not four, or five, but 6 books. She's also a movie producer, founder, and CEO of eWomen Network, and is recognized by the International Alliance for Women as one of the world's 100 top difference makers, selected by the Emmy Award-winning TV show The Doctors as their transformational expert. She's recognized by CNN as an American hero. Sandra holds a Master's of Science degree in Organizational Development from the American University in Washington, D.C., and a postgraduate certification in Organization and Systems Design from the prestigious Gestalt Institute. She's considered one of the premier business success experts in the world. Welcome, Sandra. So happy to be with you.
Meredith, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be with you and Julie, always.
Oh, well, like you had said to me when we were off camera this morning, I hope that everybody watching will grab their coffee. I saw you have yours.
Yes, I do, right here.
Exactly. You all, mine's gone. And let's just have a chat today, because I think what's really awesome when I get to speak to someone as accomplished as yourself is you're so, in my opinion, down to earth, but you're also willing to lift the veil and tell people really what it took to get where you are. And a lot of people might be surprised about some of your philosophies. And I'd like to start with what you think one of the most important ingredients is to growing a business in today's environment.
I think the most important thing is your investment in yourself more than ever. There's just no question that post-COVID for the last 4 years, without a shadow of a doubt, I've spent more on my personal growth than any single thing in my business. And I spent a lot of money in technology, a lot of money in a lot of different areas to grow the business. But I think that the role of the CEO and CEO-ship, if you will, has changed significantly. And if you're not adapting to that, then I think that you're, steering your business, unfortunately, probably not at its highest level, most optimal, highest performance, highest results oriented level.
Yeah, I love that, because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And I'm
Exactly.
very humble. I always say there is a lot I don't know. So why wouldn't we get that edge or advantage? I'd like to speak into that for a second, because we're going to invite people to learn more about eWomen and come out, because later on we're going to talk about a treat where you're going to be here in California with us.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Yes.
We are too. But to that point, I think some people get a little overwhelmed about where to start and what's appropriate. I always like to share a personal story, and maybe you have one, where, I was terrified after being debt-free to attend an event my friend invited me to, which had a bunch of coaches and a program. And I was very, very difficult. I was the stereotypical person you were just speaking into, who might say, I'm not going to do that. I have no desire. Would you believe at the end of the event, I was so blown away. And that's why I want to speak into this. Events can really, really get you. I think I invested, this is, a while back, but it was still a lot for me, $25,000. I bought everything, like everything that I was planning not to buy. The following year, my business went up 400%.
Not surprised.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, what do you say to people who say, well, that's easy for you to say, I don't have that money sitting around. I put that on a 0% interest credit card, and I was betting on me.
Right.
And so, I'd love for you to speak into those who get into the trap of, I can't afford to, even join an organization. Like I always support people joining eWomen.
Well, I always feel like if you can't afford to join an organization, that's the #1 reason why you need to join.
There you go.
I mean, honestly, and I do believe that, success, what I have learned, I'll speak for myself, is that success in large measure is about learning, then unlearning and relearning. Because the very things that got me to where I got maybe 4 years ago were not the things that I needed to get me out of COVID and certainly to grow the organization. We're in our 24th year. 2023 was our best year ever in the entire almost quarter of a century, our best year ever. So while people were complaining about, the economy and the environment and the supply chain and the price of eggs or whatever it was, I invested $150,000 in myself. I then reinvested in making sure two other members of my team had access to what I was learning because I knew I couldn't communicate nor execute by myself. And, we ended up putting millions. I mean, we entered into a new category of $1 million business in 2023. It would not have happened if I hadn't have done it. So I think the question you have to ask yourself is, are you happy with the results that you're getting? And if you aren't and you want things to change, then you have to figure out what it is that you need to change. And I do believe that one of the biggest mistakes that I see women in particular, small businesses make, not that men don't make them, but I know for women, is that they often spend time, brainstorming ideas with other people who have never been where they want to go. And what I've learned
Mhm.
about an investment is it's a way to take me from, jump from days of work to decades of success. In some ways, I've just said, you know what, I've written a check for speed. I mean, you can probably make it on your own, but you can't make it at the pace, right? That often alleviates a lot of the heartache and heartbreak that comes with small business. And I just know in my heart that it is as you get better, your business gets better. There's a direct correlation to it. I see it time and time. I just invested in another $120,000 program. I just signed the contract yesterday. It's effective on February 1. I mean, I just am like, what is the next thing? I mean, I just grow. And you know what it is? Some of it is, Meredith and Julie, I think you know this too. You're a great coach. And that is when you make a significant investment, it gets your attention and you start zeroing in on the real things that matter because there's so much busyness in running a business and it's
Right.
easy to major in the minor stuff and then you'll only have of course minor results.
You spoke into a few things that could apply here, but you say there's a skill that you've personally had to learn and master that's really contributed a great deal to growing a multi-million dollar international business. What is that?
Adaptability. Agility is the name of the game. In fact,
Mhm.
it's so interesting because I just cut out an article out of the news. It's funny that you bring this up. It says the role of the CEO is getting tougher, and part of it is because I think for a very long time the environment was really about building your skill and then just honing it and tweaking it. And today's environment is completely different. And first of all, the small business market. We have 15,000 more small business owners that have jumped into the small business space since COVID, since 2020. Now, the good news is, Meredith, and Julie knows this already, and that is if you service small business owners, I mean, you should be slammed busy. So if you're looking at your calendar and you're saying, man, I could take on 30 or 40 or even 100% more clients, you need to be asking yourself what you're doing wrong because there's never been a time that I've seen in my lifetime of the infiltration of small business owners that we have today. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is, the flip side of it is it's also a very crowded space. And
Mhm.
so finding your point of distinction and your ascension distinction path, what I call, which is, how is it that you move people into your world, working with you and growing with you over time? I think every business needs to have a value ladder. And the degree that they don't, what they're doing is they're just constantly churning. They're constantly, on that treadmill where they're just like running and running and running, and they're not seeing the benefit of what happens when you can offer a path for the clients that you have today to continue to grow with you. And
Mhm.
it's just missed. I think people so focus on the one thing that they do, and they often say to themselves, "Oh, I know I could help them more," but they never spend the time really thinking through how they go about prepping the clients that are at this level to go to the next level and then have that offer ready for them. And truth be known, I think that's the real ultimate secret to success.
I love it. And I think one thing I want to make sure, because as people tune in, we have to just assume that there are some people out there who don't understand what you stand for and why you've created eWomen. I'd love to really speak into that
Mhm,
because I enroll people like crazy. Julie knows since I've joined.
mhm,
I believe in community and the
mm.
positivity, but there's a
Yeah.
greater goal that you have established. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, ultimately, I think that all relationships, I mean, all business is about relationships. And it's part of the reason why I built a relationship business, right? I mean, nobody makes it alone. You have to get with, it is with and through people, right, that you ascend to the top. And the one percenter, if you think about it, when I interviewed Mark Cuban, he always said, as the pyramid narrows, meaning your industry, and you look at those top 1% at the very top, I mean, everybody's selling on cheaper, better, faster. That is not what gives you that competitive edge. And what I stand for is how do we get more space for women entrepreneurs? Meredith, for 15 years, the first 15 years of my business, um, what was so scary is that the needle never moved in 15 years in terms of the amount of small businesses that ever made $1 million in annual revenue. It was 2%. For 15 years, it
Wow.
never changed for women business owners at 2%.
Wow.
Post COVID, the new numbers are that it's now 1.7. So we actually have fewer women making it to the $1 million mark than ever before. What I know is that when I can get people to the $1 million mark, and quite frankly, it's this in the same 8 hours. I mean, I work, other than moving into really big events, I work, about 9 to 6 every single day. Monday through Friday. I'm not working on the weekends. I'm not working in the evenings. Not that I don't take some calls or answer texts or that kind of thing, but I'm just not, when I go on vacation, I'm fully present. I have to work at, I value social media, but I have to work on, taking videos of things because I really do believe in putting my phone down and being really present, and I do think you can run a multi-million dollar global business like eWomen Network and still have fantastic relationships with your kids, raise your kids. I started eWomen Network when my kids were really small. My son was 4, my daughter was 8, going to be 9. Have a great marriage. I've been with my husband for 45 years, and he actually works in the firm. I feel like I should get double time for that. but the point of the matter is, it's really, there's 1,440 minutes a day. Beyonce, Taylor Swift, all these fantastic people that are running these, huge organizations at the same amount of minutes as you and me. The question is, what do you do with the minutes? And are you making the minutes count? That's
I
the
love
equilibrium we all have across the board, right?
Yes.
Um, some people have better access because they were born into families that can introduce them important relationships. I didn't have that. I was raised by a single mom that didn't speak English, and I was raised on welfare, and with a brother that was 13 months older that, had a heart ailment, and so it was very difficult for him to sleep. And when he did sleep, the house had to be absolutely quiet. My mom wanted the best for me, but she didn't know what the best for me was because she herself was an orphan and raised in a convent in Mexico. And so she didn't have parents. She didn't have kind of the lift as we climb kind of thing. So it became really passionate to me to create an organization that was really built around a very simple mission: 1 million women making $1 million in annual revenue. And I'm okay when women say, but I don't need to make $1 million. And I'm like, that's great. But that also doesn't mean, let's just be clear, it doesn't mean you have to accept the bare minimum either. And you may not need it, but look at the causes, the injustices. They've never been bigger than they are in the world today, that you can write a check for and make the difference in somebody else's life for the thing that you're passionate about, whatever that is for you. And what I know is that it's easier to make a lot of money when you're surrounded by really great people. And that's where our values come in. We have 9 core values, and it really defines who we want to be in business with. Look, Not all people are my people. Not all people are your people or Julie's people. And that's okay because there's so many billions of people on the planet, right? You
Mhm.
don't need all of them. You need to find the right ones because nothing's worse than surrounding yourself with the wrong people who don't appreciate you, who don't value you, who are always asking you for a discount, right? Who are always complaining, who are always taking extra time, who are always criticizing you, who are always questioning you in your dream. I mean, nothing's worse than surround. I mean, negativity is just as contagious as positivity. The question you want to ask yourself is, which one do you want to be infected by?
We it's so true, and we here on our show focus on overcoming adversity. I mean, just sharing where you came from and where you are today is extraordinarily inspiring, and we call it shine. But I think
Mm,
when you ask people like yourself, what is your greatest gift, that you have learned through the years, and you mentioned being a change master, and we certainly value that, but how do you see yourself as when people look back, you've created this amazing organization that has a ripple effect.
mhm.
And I'm just curious, at home, what are you most proud of that you've accomplished, and what do you think you're shining at above all else?
I think what I'm most proud of are the relationships that I've built. I mean, listen, you can always make more money. That's the good news. I mean, here's the thing. Let's say you try something and you fail. Guess what you have to do tomorrow? You have to get up and work.
Mhm.
Let's say you try something and you succeed. Guess what you have to do tomorrow? You have to get up and work. I mean, to me, you're always working hard. You just got to pick your hard. You know what I mean? And um, so I happen to love what I do. So I'm excited about getting up in the morning, but I'm really most proud of the relationships that I have. I'm really proud of the relationships I have with my children. My daughter's office is right next to me. It's so
Mhm.
cool, and I could have never have imagined when I started the eWomen Network that we'd be working side by side. She is the heir parent to eWomen Network, and how lucky that it just turned into something that she grew passionate about as well. And she's a rock star in her own right, and she's been given lots of opportunity, but that also comes with a big, she would tell you it comes with a lot of responsibility as well. It's sometimes easier to come from nothing and be successful than to be supported by very successful parents and then have the pressure of being able to deliver on your own. And Brianna has managed that incredibly well. And I also have a more quiet in terms of, my son is really not on social media, but we just had dinner with he and his girlfriend last night, and he'll call me just to say, "I'm thinking about you and I love you, mom." And so to have those relationships to me are really important. I think about Julie Krasinski. I didn't know Julie before eWomen Network. Right?
Mhm. Yeah.
She's now an executive managing director of the Calabasas chapter. Julie is without a shadow of a doubt one of the top 10, and I might even say one of the top 5 um, women in eWomen Network running her chapter. I wouldn't have known Julie if it hadn't been for us coming together in this way. I believe that no matter what happens, we will always stay connected. She has
Sure.
my cell phone number. When managing directors move on to other things, I don't take them out of my cell phone. I stay
Yeah.
connected. I watch what she does. I watch how she cares. I watch just this sympathetic, is that the right word? Rhythm that we have. We may not talk every day, but I really value her. I'm so grateful that it's the relationship. Yeah, together we work. We take the work out of networking. We are passionate about what we do, but it is the relationships ultimately that really matter.
It and I have to, yeah, and I know, and Julie, you are unmatched at that. And what I think is lovely about eWomen is you have this level of support and generosity that you don't always experience in other organizations. I actually can't count how many times Julie has connected me. You would think it would be, always
Right.
the other way around, with really valuable people who have come onto my TV show. So thank you for that. There's no shortage of inspirational people out there, but you have to meet them and know them, right? You can't sit at home crossing your fingers hoping that they're going to come to you. It's relationships. So I really value your philosophy there, and eWomen for that reason. You say that there's a skill that you have to constantly work on. I was very curious about this for you to share with others.
Well, I think in some ways I've already hit it, but the truth of the matter is the skill that I always have to work on is me. Like I know that the version we just ended the year not too long ago, right? And I know that the version of me that got me to what I accomplished in 2023 is not the version of me that's going to get me to what I want to accomplish in 2024.
For sure.
And I don't think that if you're committed to being a business owner, you can really sit on your laurels. There are always people that are kind of nipping at your heels, right? And they're watching you. And I saw an interview one time of Mark Bezos. I think that's his name, Mark. Jeff's brother, I believe, is Mark. And I was watching an interview of him one time, and he asked something of Jeff that I never forgot. And Jeff said, and Mark said, "What do you do when you feel like people are always watching you and kind of nipping at your heels and trying to, catch up with you and do what you're doing?" And he said, "Let them watch me. I'm watching the customer." Right.
Mm.
And my mother used to say it in a different way. She didn't have the business acumen to say it, but she used to always say to me, I'll never forget, Sandra, the scenery only changes for the lead dog. you know
Mhm.
and and the thing is, do you want to be sniffing butt all the time and chasing somebody else's tail, or do you want the blue sky and to think in possibility? Because in today's market, it's pretty competitive. So
Mhm.
I've always got to be saying, what is the business, what are my customers, what do my team require of me, in order to make sure that I'm leading with the vision of the new direction. Sometimes it's a little painful. Not everybody always agrees with some of your decisions. And I have right here, I'm looking at it. I've drawn on a blackboard this basically this bell curve that always talks about what real success is, and it's really for those that are the innovators. And then you're going to have the early adapters and the early majority, the late majority, and the laggards. And I'm always pushing myself to be the innovator. The struggle with that sometimes is that people, when things are going really well for them, as much as people say they want to change, they really aren't. They
Okay.
really don't want to. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Especially when things are going really well. But what I've learned is, if you ride the wave too long, what happens to all waves?
They
They
crash.
you they crash. So it's when things are going well that you need to look for that next opportunity and make the leap. And you might be leaping not from one wave to another wave, but from a wave to a mountain. And that
Mhm.
mountain requires very different tools, right? And very different skills to climb than, riding the wave. And so
Mhm.
what is it? If you have a different goal, what's going to be required of you? And some of that requires just your communication. And so sometimes the people that were your greatest supporters during one phase of your success, and their success, may not be ready for that next. And that becomes really tough, I think, for women to really understand that, because we so want to bring people along. And I'm as guilty of this as the next, of almost trying to convince people who are committed to misunderstanding me. And that becomes very wasted energy, very draining, and valuable minutes that turn into hours, that turn into days, that turn into weeks, that turn into months,
Mm.
right? Hard to make traction with that. So learning how to communicate the best you can, and then bless and release. I saw Tyler Perry one time talk about, if you know you're the rocket and you're destined for big things, just remember every rocket takes off and it's attached with these two boosters. These boosters help it take off, but eventually they have to break away in order for that rocket ship to really
Mhm.
go where it's going. And I think that's true sometimes with relationships. So it's a tricky thing, isn't it, to learn how to manage relationships? I mean, all
Sure
business
is.
is about relationships, but you got to figure out, when you're doing that people math, who's adding and multiplying versus who's kind of dividing and
Mhm.
subtracting, understanding that they can pop into different categories, at different phases of your own journey.
I love it. And as we're rounding out our time together, I can't believe how fast the time flies when we're together. We're so excited because you're coming to California. As
I am.
earlier. So
I-
awesome. Coming up in February. Yes.
Yes.
So I'm going to let Julie talk about it because she's hosting you, how people can come out and what they can expect.
Yeah, so I'm excited. This is my sixth one. Sandra, do you believe it?
I can't even.
Yeah, when I took over the chapter in 2019 in January, there was a summit already planned, and they're like, "Oh, you're having a summit in March with the 100 people." I'm like, "Oh, well, who's getting the 100 people?" And they're like, "You." I'm like, "Okay, sure."
See what I mean? See what I mean? What a rock star she is.
And I'm like, well, I was a business matchmaker when Tony had the chapter, so I'm like, okay, I know people, and we pulled it off, and so this is our seventh year, and it's interesting because people are like, oh, are you nervous about getting the people? I'm like, no, it's just it always sells out. We did one during COVID when we just came back in 2019. We're like, you're like, who wants to do it? And we're like, yeah, we'll do it.
I know.
Like 88 people in the room, which was huge,
Wow.
like a month after we got back, because people were dying to just see everybody and be in person again.
Please tell people at home, though, who might not know that it's a summit and what that looks like, because I'm sure people at home will want to click the link that we provide under this or get in touch with us. You can send us a direct message. All of us would be willing to connect you so you can buy a ticket and come out. What can they expect?
I think Sandra will be able to explain a little bit better, but I know from my end, and the people that repeat come every year, my members, and people come from all over. We have Orange County and LA and Santa Barbara County, all over the place. And, I tell them, mark off your day, and they just love it because, number one, they get to connect with so many people. They have opportunities to showcase their business. They can sponsor. We have swag bag. We have there's so many different opportunities. Beautiful flowers, balloons. I always make it look like it's a beautiful wedding there.
It does. It really does.
And then Sandra just wows them, and I take notes feverishly every time I'm in her space anyway. So it's real easy for me to promote it. We're always learning. I took notes today. I always love what I learned from her, and I think we need to call it something other than a summit, because I think people think it's like, well, we're going to sit here, it's going to workshop, where it's like high energy. And, Sandra, do you want to add a little?
Yeah, I mean, I think Julie named it. It's a summit in the fact of this is attracting people that want to climb to the next level, right? The peak of the summit. The environment in which we do that, I think, is very customized for the female entrepreneur, although we have lots of men who provide products and services that help women, and they show up and they also become members. I'm going to be talking about the 6 things. I'm calling it my future framework. I do believe that success is about, beginning with the end in mind. I think that was Stephen Covey that coined that, right? I mean, know what you want your future to be and then reverse engineer in alignment with that, right? So I'm going to be talking about 6 things that I've done in this past year that have landed eWomen Network during all the rocky conversation that people are saying about the environment. I mean, I actually did quite well in the market, but nothing compared to the investment that I made in myself and the rewards. And I'm going to be sharing those things because I only teach what I know to be true based on my experience and therefore wisdom. So what are the 6 things that I did last year that propelled us to record results? I'm going to be sharing with you so that you can be thinking about how you, not necessarily adopt, because we have all different business models, but how do you adapt it so that you can apply it in your own business and make 2024 your best year ever.
Love it. Love it. Well, we're just about out of time, but as we close out, I love to do this, and you weren't expecting it, so nothing like putting you on the spot.
Okay.
I always like to say it's fun to ask people when you interview them, and so this will be for Julie, and then we'll end on Sandra. My favorite thing about eWomen is it is a safe space to really come forward and have a lot of fun and learn at the same time. But what is your favorite thing about eWomen, Julie?
Oh my gosh. For me, it's just the feedback that I get that just warms my heart, that I know that I'm making an impact through what Sandra has created. I had a guest this month who messaged me saying, thank you for creating a space where women feel safe and they belong. And I'm like, thank you. Oh my gosh. So I know that I'm passing on part of Sandra's legacy by, sharing every month in front of the room. So I love the relationships that we're building for sure.
So much to love. Okay, Sandra, thank you so much for joining us, and tell us your favorite thing as we close it out about eWomen.
I think seeing the needle move. I mean, we're serious about getting women to $1 million. We actually measure it. We celebrate them on our stage every year. It can happen. Why shouldn't it happen? And I will say, for me, between that and just what Julie said, and just being in partnership with Julie and the other managing directors is by far the greatest. I can't think of a better way to spend my life.
Thank
Honestly.
you. And a tribute to what the legacy, as Julie said, you created, and Julie, and what she creates. I never leave a meeting without feeling inspired, excited, and always have a little bit of anticipation for the next time we get together. So I hope everybody watching joins us if you can. February 21st. Let me anchor that in, right?
Yes.
And that's going to be at the Country Club. Julie, if you want to quickly run through it, and then everybody at home know that you can click on the link to get a ticket, because it does sell out, right, Julie?
Yeah, it's at Los Robles Greens in beautiful Thousand Oaks, California.
Yeah.
So reach out to me if you have any questions, for sure.
All right. Thank you so much, ladies, for making time. I know how busy we all are. We appreciate you. Thank you for watching. And thank you so much for coming out to meet us in person. We look forward to meeting you next month in February. Thanks so much.
Yay. Okay. Thanks, Meredith. Thank you, Julie. See you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.